Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked out at the stars. He had been watching space for 30 years now, and he still found it beautiful. But today, something felt wrong. The reports coming from the outer colonies were getting worse each week. "Sir, we have another message from the Kalari homeworld," said his communications officer. Lieutenant Ben Torres handed him a datapad with worried eyes. "They're asking for help again." Jake read the message quickly. The Kalari were one of Earth's oldest friends in space. They looked like dolphins, but could walk on land with special suits. Their planet Aquatica was covered mostly in water, and they had saved thousands of human lives with their medical knowledge. Now they were scared. "What does the Council want from them this time?" Jake asked. "The same thing they want from everyone," Torres replied. "Complete control. They want the Kalari to give up their government and let the Council make all their decisions." Jake shook his head. The Galactic Council had been different when humans first joined it 90 years ago. Back then, it was a place where different species could work together. Now it was run by three big powers who wanted to control everyone. The hegemony was the military arm. They had the biggest ships and the most weapons. Their leader was a tall, thin alien called High Chancellor Vex 9, who seemed to enjoy making others afraid. The Trade Federation controlled all the money and business in the galaxy. They decided who could buy and sell what. If you made them angry, your planet would starve. The Covenant was the strangest of the three. They believed their religion was the only true one, and they wanted every species in the galaxy to follow their rules. They said their God had chosen them to lead all other life forms. Together, these three groups had slowly taken control of the Council. They called it bringing order to the galaxy. Everyone else called it something different. "Sir," Torres said quietly, "there's more. The Thane Collective sent a message too." Jake's stomach tightened. The Thane were another close ally of Earth. They were made of living rock and metal, and they could build anything. Human cities used Thane engineering, and Thane colonies used human food-growing technology. They had been friends for decades. "Let me guess," Jake said. "The Council wants them to follow the new rules too." "Yes, sir." "And if they don single quotes T ... double quotes Torres didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Jake had read the Council's new compliance protocols. Any species that didn't follow the new rules would be declared an enemy of galactic peace. The Council would send their military to restore order. In the past year, 3 small alien civilizations had been restored to order. None of them existed anymore. Dr. Lisa Chun walked onto the bridge at that moment. She was Earth's top expert on alien life and languages. She also helped Earth's government talk to other species. Her face looked tired and worried. "Admiral," she sighed, "I just finished talking to Ambassador Sullivan. The situation is getting worse." Kate Sullivan was Earth's representative to the Council. She had been trying to keep peace between Earth's allies and the 3 big powers. It was getting harder every day. "What did she say?" Jake asked. "The Council is losing patience with the Kalari and Thane. They're talking about sending a final message to show what happens when species don't obey." Lisa sat down heavily in a chair. "Kate thinks they might actually attack." "Would they really do it?" Torres asked. "Attack civilian populations?" Lisa and Jake looked at each other. They both knew the answer. The Council's 3 ruling powers had done terrible things before. They just hadn't done them to Earth's friends yet. "We need to warn them," Jake said. "Kate is already trying," Lisa replied. "But the Kalari and Thane are proud species. They won't back down just because the Council threatens them. They've seen what happens to species that give up their freedom." Jake understood. Once the Council took control of a planet, the local people became slaves in everything but name. They had to work for the Council's benefit. They had to follow the Council's laws. They couldn't even choose their own leaders anymore. What about President Mitchell? Jake asked. Will he help? Lisa sighed. The president wants to try diplomacy first. He thinks we can negotiate with the Council and find a peaceful solution. Jake respected the president, but he thought the man was being naive. The Council's three powers didn't want to negotiate. They wanted complete control, and they were willing to kill anyone who stood in their way. Sir, Torres interrupted, we're getting a priority message from Earth Command. Jake took the message and read it quickly. His face grew dark as he read. What is it? Lisa asked. The Council has invited the Kalari and Thane leaders to a peace conference, Jake said slowly. They want to discuss the new protocols in a neutral location. That's good news, isn't it? Torres asked hopefully. Jake looked at Lisa. She had gone pale. No, she said quietly. It's not good news at all. The three of them stood in silence for a moment. They all understood what this meant. The Council didn't hold peace conferences. When they wanted to talk, they sent demands. When they invited enemies to meetings, those enemies usually didn't come home. We have to warn them, Jake said. Kate is already trying, Lisa replied. But the Kalari and Thane think this might be their last chance to avoid a war. They're going to attend. Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, his friends were about to walk into a trap, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Order the fleet to move to high alert, he told. Torres, I have a feeling we're going to need to be ready for anything. As Torres sent out the orders, Jake continued to stare into space. Earth had spent 90 years building friendships across the galaxy. They had shared their knowledge, their culture, and their dreams with dozens of different species. They had believed that working together was better than fighting. Now their friends were in danger, and the peaceful galaxy they had helped build was falling apart. The Council's three powers were about to show the universe what happened to those who refused to kneel. Jake just hoped that when the time came, Earth would be ready to show them what happened to those who hurt Earth's friends. Commander Alex Parker sat in his small office deep inside Earth's intelligence center. He had been staring at the same reports for 3 hours, and what he saw made his stomach hurt. Something was very wrong. Sam, come look at this, he called. To his assistant, Lieutenant Sam Johnson walked over to Alex's desk. She was the best communications expert in Earth's military, and she could break codes that others thought were impossible to crack. What do you see? Alex asked, pointing at his screen. Sam studied the data for several minutes. The reports showed ship movements near the peace conference location. Hundreds of military vessels from the Council's three powers were gathering. In space, far more than needed for a simple meeting. That's a lot of firepower for a peace talk, Sam said quietly. That's what I thought too, Alex replied. I've been tracking Council fleet movements for weeks. They're not just sending diplomats to this conference. They're sending their entire war fleet. Sam sat down and pulled up more data on her tablet. Look at this, she said. I've been monitoring their communications. Most of it is encrypted, but I can see the message patterns. They're not talking like people planning a peace conference. They're talking like people planning a battle. Alex felt cold fear in his chest. The peace conference was supposed to happen in 2 days. Representatives from the Kalari homeworld and the Thane Collective were already traveling to the meeting point. If Alex was right, they were flying straight into a trap. We have to warn someone, Sam said. Alex had already tried. He had sent reports to his superiors, but they told him he was being paranoid. The Council had promised this was a real peace conference. Earth's government wanted to believe them. Sir, Sam said, looking at her screen with wide eyes, I'm picking up a new transmission. It's heavily encrypted, but it's coming from the Hegemony flagship. Can you break it? Sam's fingers flew over her keyboard. She was good, but the council's encryption was getting better every year. I can get pieces of it, but not the whole message. I see words like demonstration and final solution and eliminate resistance. Alex stood up quickly. Keep working on it. I'm going to try one more time to get someone to listen. But by the time Alex reached his commanding officer, it was too late. The peace conference had already begun. Dr. Lisa Chun had volunteered to attend the conference. As an observer for Earth, she wanted to help her friends find a peaceful solution. Now she sat in a small Earth shuttle near the conference station, watching as ships from dozens of species arrived for the meeting. The Kalari delegation looked beautiful as always. Their ships were smooth and curved like seashells, designed to move through water as easily as space. Lisa could see families on board through the transparent sections of their vessels. The Kalari had brought their children to witness what they hoped would be a historic peace agreement. The Thane ships were different, angular and strong, built from metals that could last for thousands of years. The Thane didn't have families like humans did, but they brought their young apprentices to learn about diplomacy and cooperation. It's quite a sight, said Lieutenant Ben Torres, who was piloting Lisa's shuttle. All these species coming together to try to find peace. Lisa nodded, but she felt uneasy. The Council's military ships surrounded the conference station like a metal wall. There were far too many of them for a simple peace meeting. Ben, she said quietly, keep our engines ready. If something goes wrong, I want to be able to leave quickly. The conference began with speeches about cooperation and understanding. The Kalari representative spoke about their desire to remain independent while still being part of the galactic community. The Thane delegate explained that his people just wanted to live in peace and share their knowledge with others. Then High Chancellor Vex 9 of the Hegemony stood up to speak. His voice was cold and emotionless. The time for debate is over, he said. The galaxy must have order. Species that refuse to accept the Council's authority are a threat to galactic peace. This threat must be eliminated. Lisa felt ice in her veins. Ben, start the engines. Now. Around the conference station, the Council's war fleet began to move. Hundreds of military ships surrounded the peaceful delegations like wolves circling sheep. The Kalari representative stood up, confusion clear in his voice. What is the meaning of this? We came here for peace talks. You came here to surrender, Vex 9 replied. Since you refuse to do so willingly, you will be removed as a threat to galactic stability. The first weapons fired before anyone could react. Massive energy beams tore through the Kalari ships like they were made of paper. Lisa watched in horror as entire vessels filled with families simply disappeared in flashes of light. Go, go, go. She shouted to Ben. The Earth shuttle accelerated away from the station as fast as it could travel. Behind them, the massacre continued. The Thane ships tried to fight back, but they were explorers and engineers, not warriors. Their defensive weapons were no match for the Council's military fleet. Lisa pressed her face against the shuttle's window, recording everything she could. See? The universe needed to know what was happening here. She watched as escape pods launched from dying ships, only to be hunted down and destroyed by Council fighters. They're killing everyone, Ben said, his voice full of shock, even the children. Lisa couldn't speak. She just kept recording. Ship after ship exploded in silent flowers of fire. Thousands of beings who had come here hoping for peace were being murdered in cold space. The attack lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, nothing remained of the Kalari and Thane delegations except glowing debris and expanding clouds of gas. Over 50,000 innocent beings were dead. Ben guided their shuttle toward the nearest jump point that would take them back to Earth. Neither of them spoke during the long journey home. What was there to say? When they finally arrived at Earth, Lisa's shuttle was met by Admiral Morrison himself. He took one look at her face and knew something terrible had happened. "How many?" he asked quietly. "All of them," Lisa whispered. "Every ship. Every family. They didn't even try to capture prisoners. They just killed everyone." Admiral Morrison closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were filled with cold anger. What was the Council's official explanation? He asked. Lisa handed him a datapad with the Council's public statement. "They're calling it a necessary enforcement action against rebellious elements. They say the Calarian Thane attacked first." "That's a lie. I know. I recorded everything." Lisa's voice was getting stronger as her shock turned to anger. "Jake, they murdered children, families who just wanted to live in peace. And now they're lying about it to the entire galaxy." Within hours, news of the massacre had reached every corner of Earth. The public was outraged. Protesters gathered outside government buildings demanding action. The families of Earth's diplomats who had worked with the Calarian Thane wept openly. In the streets, President Charles Mitchell called an emergency meeting of his cabinet. Admiral Morrison, Dr. Chun, and Ambassador Sullivan attended via secure communication from her location near Council space. "What are our options?" the President asked. "We could withdraw from the Council immediately," suggested Defense Secretary Carol White. "Cut all ties and refuse to recognize their authority. That would leave us isolated," warned Secretary of State Mark Johnson. "We'd be alone against the three most powerful military forces in the galaxy." Ambassador Sullivan's voice came through. The speakers, tired and defeated. "I've been trying to reach moderate council members for hours. None of them will speak to me. The ones who do answer just say this was regrettable but necessary." Admiral Morrison leaned forward. "Mr. President, with respect, the time for diplomacy may be over. The Council has shown they're willing to commit genocide to maintain their power. Our allies are dead, and we may be next." President Mitchell held up his hand. "I understand everyone's anger. I feel it too. But we cannot let emotion drive our decisions. Earth has always chosen the path of peace first. I will not abandon that principle now." "Even after what they did to our friends?" Morrison asked. "Especially after what they did to our friends," the President replied firmly. "We will try every diplomatic option available. If the Council wants to be monsters, that's their choice. But Earth will not become monsters to fight them." Dr. Lisa Chun spoke up from her seat. "Mr. President, I saw what happened out there. I watched families die while the Council leaders smiled. These aren't people we can negotiate with anymore. They're killers who believe might makes right." "Then we'll prove them wrong," Mitchell said. "We'll show the galaxy that there's a better way than violence and intimidation." Admiral Morrison said nothing, but his hands clenched into fists under the table. He respected the President, but he also understood something the politician didn't. Sometimes peaceful people had to be ready to fight, or everything they valued would be destroyed. As the meeting ended and the others left, Morrison remained in his chair. He thought about his Kalari friends who had shared their medical knowledge to save human lives. He thought about the Thane engineers who had helped build Earth's greatest cities. Now they were all dead, killed by bullies who thought power gave them the right to murder anyone who disagreed with them. The President wanted to try diplomacy. Morrison would support that decision because he was a good soldier who... 6 months had passed since the massacre, and President Charles Mitchell still believed he could find a peaceful solution. He sat in his office late at night, reading reports from his special envoy, Margaret Lewis, who was trying to find allies within the Council. "Margaret sent another message today," he told his wife during their private dinner. "She thinks she's found some Council members who might help us hold the three powers accountable for what they did." His wife, Linda Mitchell, looked at him with tired eyes. Charles, everyone else thinks you're wasting time. Even our closest advisors are losing faith in diplomacy. The president knew she was right. Senator Paul Wright had been giving angry speeches in Congress every day, demanding immediate military action. General Linda Hayes, the Army Chief of Staff, kept sending him reports about Earth's military readiness. Even Ambassador Sullivan had stopped trying to arrange new meetings. With Council moderates, but President Mitchell couldn't give up on peace. If Earth attacked the Council, millions of innocent beings would die in the war that followed. He had to believe there was a better way. "Sir," his secretary called through the intercom, "Senator Wright is here for your meeting." Paul Wright walked into the office with a folder full of papers and a face full of anger. He had been Earth's leading voice for military action since the day news of the massacre reached Earth. "Mr. President," he said without sitting down, "I have new intelligence reports. The Council is building up military forces all across the galaxy. They're preparing for something big." President Mitchell took the folder and read through it quickly. The reports showed massive ship construction projects, new weapons testing, and military exercises involving thousands of vessels. "Could just be normal military activity," Mitchell said hopefully. "They might be trying to intimidate us into backing down. Or they might be planning to finish what they started," Wright replied. "Mr. President, they killed our allies. They lied about it to the entire galaxy, and now they're preparing for war. How much more evidence do you need?" Before the president could answer, his communication system activated. A hologram appeared in the room showing a tall, thin alien figure that made both men tense up immediately. It was High Chancellor Vex 9 of the Hegemony, the same being who had ordered the massacre 6 months ago. "President Mitchell," Vex 9 said in his cold, emotionless voice, "the Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding Earth's continued membership in our organization." President Mitchell stood up straight, trying to hide his fear. "What decision?" "Earth has refused to accept the new compliance protocols. You have continued to harbor refugees from the rebellious Kalari and Thane populations. You have interfered with Council justice by questioning our lawful actions against insurgent forces." "You mean the murder of innocent families," Senator Wright said angrily. Vex 9 didn't even look at him. "The Council hereby issues the following ultimatum to Earth. You have 30 days to implement full compliance protocols. You will surrender all insurgent refugees to Council authority. You will allow Council inspection teams to examine your outer colonies for signs of continued rebellion. And you will permit the establishment of permanent Council military bases in your solar system." President Mitchell felt his heart racing. "And if we refuse?" "Then Earth will be declared an insurgent world and dealt with accordingly," Vex 9 replied. "You have seen what happens to insurgent worlds, President Mitchell. Choose wisely." The hologram disappeared, leaving the two men standing in shocked silence. 30 days, Wright said quietly. "He's giving us 30 days to become slaves, or die." President Mitchell sat down heavily in his chair. The weight of leading an entire world had never felt heavier than it did at that moment. "Call Ambassador Sullivan," he said finally. "Tell her I want one more meeting with the Council. One last chance to find a peaceful solution." "Sir," Wright began. "One more chance, Paul. If diplomacy fails, then we'll do what we have to do. But I won't start a galactic war without trying everything possible to avoid it." Senator Wright left the office shaking his head. As soon as he was gone, President Mitchell called General Hayes on his secure line. "Linda," he said quietly, "I need you to prepare contingency plans. If our final diplomatic attempt fails, I want our military ready for anything." "Already working on it, sir," General Hayes replied. "Admiral Morrison has been preparing the fleet for months. We have some ... options. That might surprise the Council if it comes to war. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Kate Sullivan sat across a table from the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Council's inner chamber was a massive room with representatives from hundreds of worlds, but only 3 voices really mattered anymore. High Chancellor Vex 9 of the Hegemony sat like a statue, showing no emotion. Trade Federation Director Quinn 7 looked bored, as if discussing the potential extinction of humanity was just another business meeting. Covenant Supreme Leader Ral 4 kept muttering prayers to his god and casting disgusted looks at Sullivan, as if her very presence offended his religious beliefs. Ambassador Sullivan, Vex 9 said, "You have requested this final meeting. The Council's patience with Earth is exhausted. Do you bring word of your government's surrender?" Sullivan had prepared for this moment for weeks. She had evidence of the Council's war crimes, testimony from survivors, and detailed proposals for peaceful coexistence. She had spent her entire career believing that reasonable people could always find common ground. "High Chancellor," she began, "I come here today with proof that the attack on the Kalari and Thane delegations was unprovoked murder. These beings came to your peace conference in good faith, bringing their families because they believed in the possibility of cooperation." She activated a holographic display showing the footage Dr. Chun had recorded. The room watched in silence as peaceful ships were destroyed and escape pods were hunted down like animals. "As you can see," Sullivan continued, "there was no attack by the delegations, no threat to Council forces. This was a planned execution of innocents designed to terrorize other species into submission." When the footage ended, the chamber was quiet for a long moment. Sullivan felt a spark of hope. Maybe seeing the evidence again would remind these beings of their better nature. Then Quinn 7 of the Trade Federation started laughing. "Ambassador," he said, still chuckling, "do you really think we care about your moral objections? The Kalari and Thane refused to accept lawful council authority. They were eliminated as examples to others. This is how order is maintained. You killed children," Sullivan said, her voice shaking with anger. "Entire families who had nothing to do with politics or rebellion." "We killed problems," Vex 9 replied coldly. "And if Earth continues to be a problem, we will kill Earth too. Your species has exactly 1 week remaining to accept our terms. After that, your fate will be the same as your former allies." Supreme Leader Ral 4 spoke for the first time, his voice filled with religious certainty. "Our God has chosen the strong to rule the weak. Your species has forgotten its place in the natural order. Submit to our authority, or be cleansed from the universe." Sullivan looked around the chamber at the hundreds of other representatives. These were beings from dozens of different worlds, many of whom had once been Earth's friends. Surely some of them would speak up against this madness, but one by one they all looked away. Some seemed ashamed, others appeared frightened, but none of them said a word in Earth's defense. The Council's reign of fear had silenced even those who might have wanted to help. "I have one final proposal," Sullivan said desperately. "Earth withdraws from the Council entirely. We take our refugees and leave Council space. You never have to deal with us again." "Unacceptable," Vex 9 replied immediately. "Your species has seen too much. You know too many of our methods. You could inspire other worlds to resist our authority. No, Ambassador Sullivan. Submission or extinction. Those are your only choices." Sullivan stood up slowly. She had spent her entire adult life believing in the power of words to solve problems. She had dedicated herself to finding peaceful solutions to impossible conflicts. Now she faced beings who had no interest in peace, no respect for life, and no capacity for mercy. "Then I have one final message for this council," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "Earth tried to work with you. We offered friendship, cooperation, and respect. You responded with murder and threats. You think this makes you strong, but you're wrong. She walked toward the chamber's exit, then turned back one last time. You're not strong. You're just bullies with big weapons. And Earth has a long history of dealing with bullies. We tried diplomacy because we believed in peace. You've shown us that peace is impossible while you exist. That's a lesson we won't forget. As she left the chamber, Sullivan heard Vex 9's voice behind her. 7 days, Ambassador. Then your species joins the Kalari and Thane in extinction. Sullivan didn't look back. She walked straight to her shuttle and began the journey home to Earth. As soon as she was in space, she sent a coded message to President Mitchell. Diplomacy is dead. They're coming for us next. Recommend immediate military response. These beings cannot be reasoned with, compromised with, or trusted. They understand only force. Give Admiral Morrison permission to do whatever is necessary. 6 hours later, President Mitchell stood before both houses of Congress. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in a room that officially didn't exist. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, Director Scott Williams was about to show him secrets that Earth had been keeping for almost a century. Jake, Williams said as they walked through corridors that never appeared on any government map. What I'm about to show you is why Earth has been able to remain peaceful for so long. We could afford to be diplomats because we were always prepared for war. They stopped in front of a massive glass door. Williams placed his hand on a scanner, and the door slowly opened to reveal something that took Morrison's breath away. The chamber beyond was enormous, carved out of solid rock and filled with ships unlike anything Morrison had ever seen. These weren't the clean diplomatic vessels that Earth usually sent to negotiate with other species. These were weapons of war, painted black as space itself and covered with armor that seemed to absorb light. Welcome to the Ghost Fleet, Williams said with quiet pride. 37 stealth ships that have been patrolling the galaxy for decades without anyone knowing they exist. Morrison walked between the ships, studying their sleek designs. How is this possible? We've never built anything like this before. We've been building them for 80 years, Williams replied. Every time we signed a peace treaty, every time we shared our technology with the Council, we were also preparing for the day they might betray us. These ships are invisible to every sensor system the Council uses. They moved deeper into the facility, and Williams showed Morrison other secrets. There were weapon designs that used Earth's understanding of black holes to create gravity bombs. There were factories hidden in asteroid belts throughout the solar system, producing advanced weapons that the Council had no idea existed. Dr. Amanda Clark has been working on something special, Williams said, leading Morrison to another section. We call them planet crackers. Dr. Clark was a small woman with tired eyes and hands that shook slightly from years of working with dangerous materials. When she spoke, her voice was filled with quiet determination. Admiral, she said, these weapons can split a planet in half. We designed them after studying what the Council did to 3 worlds that refused their authority. If they want to destroy worlds, we can show them how it's really done. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. How many of these weapons do we have? Enough, Clark replied simply. Over the next week, Morrison learned about decades of secret preparation. Earth had built relationships with dozens of smaller species that the Council ignored or oppressed. These allies had been secretly providing information about Council movements and weaknesses for years. Captain Ryan Davis was put in command of the first Ghost Fleet operation. His mission was simple: find Council supply convoys and make them disappear. Remember, Morrison told him before he left, we're not trying to start a fair fight. We're trying to end this war before it destroys the galaxy. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and make sure they never see you coming. Davis's first target was a convoy carrying weapons to a Council military base near the galactic core. The convoy consisted of 20 heavily armed ships, escorted by a full battle group. It should have been impossible for a single ship to attack such a force. Davis proved that nothing was impossible for humans who were angry enough. His ship, the Ed's Phantom, approached the convoy while completely invisible to their sensors. Using gravity manipulation technology, Davis pulled the convoy's lead ship out of formation and into empty space before anyone realized what was happening. "This is Captain Ryan Davis of Earth Defense Forces," he broadcast on all Council frequencies. "You are carrying weapons that will be used to murder innocent beings. Surrender your cargo and return to your home worlds, or we will take it from you." The Council commander laughed and ordered his ships to search for the source of the transmission. They found nothing. Davis didn't laugh back. He simply activated his ship's main weapon and watched as gravity tore the Council flagship apart. From the inside, the battle lasted 6 minutes. When it was over, 19 Council ships had been captured intact, and their crews were floating in escape pods, wondering what had just happened to them. The weapons they had been carrying were now in Earth's hands. Davis left the crew alive with a simple message: "Tell your leaders that Earth remembers the Kalari children." Word of the attack spread quickly through Council space. How had a single Earth ship destroyed an entire convoy? Where had the humans gotten such advanced weapons? Most importantly, how many more ships like this did Earth have? The answers came quickly as Ghost Fleet ships appeared throughout the galaxy. They struck Council bases, captured Council ships, and rescued aliens who had been imprisoned for opposing the 3 ruling powers. Colonel Steve Murphy led boarding parties that captured Council vessels without killing their crews. Instead of executing their prisoners like the Council did, Murphy's Marines freed them and sent them home with the same message Davis had used: "Earth remembers the Kalari children." Lieutenant Commander Julie Foster became famous for her gravity tactics. She could make enemy ships crash into each other, pull weapons off their hulls, or simply flip them upside down until their crews surrendered. Her favorite trick was making Council ships dance in space, like leaves in the wind, while she calmly demanded their surrender. But the Ghost Fleet was only the beginning of Earth's response. Dr. Lisa Chun, the woman who had witnessed the massacre, now led a different kind of mission. Instead of weapons, she used words and evidence to turn the galaxy against the Council. She visited every world that had lost family members to Council enforcement actions. She showed them footage of the massacre and explained how Earth was fighting back. One by one, entire star systems began refusing to obey Council orders. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," she told them. "Earth is here, and we won't let the bullies win." The Council's response was predictable and brutal. They began attacking civilian populations on worlds that refused to obey them. This was exactly what Morrison had been waiting for. "Now they've shown the entire galaxy who they really are," he told his officers during a planning meeting. "They're not leaders. They're terrorists with big ships. And Earth knows how to deal with terrorists." The next phase of Earth's campaign began when Admiral Morrison himself led a fleet of revealed ships into Council space. These weren't the secret Ghost Fleet vessels. These were Earth's regular military ships, painted in bright colors and broadcasting messages of defiance on every frequency. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet," he announced as his ships approached a Council stronghold. "We are here to arrest High Chancellor Vex 9, Trade Director Quinn 7, and Supreme Leader Ral 4 for war crimes against innocent populations. Surrender them to us for trial, or we will come and take them." The Council's response was to send 3 full battle fleets to destroy Morrison's ships. They outnumbered the Earth forces 10 to 1 and had weapons that could destroy planets. The battle should have been a massacre. It was, but not the kind the Council expected. Earth's ships didn't fight like other species. They used gravity weapons to turn the Council's own ships against each other. They used stealth technology to appear behind enemy lines and disappear before return fire could reach them. Most importantly, they fought with a cold, calculated fury that shocked their enemies. "They're not just trying to win," one captured Council officer said later. "They're trying to hurt us." Every human in that fleet was thinking about dead Kalari children, and they wanted us to pay for what we did. The battle ended with 2 complete Council fleets destroyed, and the 3rd fleeing in panic. Admiral Morrison's forces had suffered only light damage, but Morrison wasn't done. As the surviving Council ships retreated, he sent them a message that would be repeated across the galaxy. "This is what happens when you murder our friends. This is what happens when you threaten innocent beings. And this is just the beginning. We know where you live. We know where you work. And we know where you sleep. Earth is coming for you, and we won't stop until justice is done." Throughout Council space, military commanders began asking themselves a terrifying question. If humans had been hiding weapons like this for decades, what else were they hiding? The answer came when Intelligence Officer Nicole Baker infiltrated a secret Council facility and discovered their final plan. The 3 ruling powers had decided that if they couldn't control the galaxy, they would destroy it. They were building weapons that could make stars explode. When this news reached Earth, President Mitchell made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. He authorized Operation Prometheus, Earth's total war response. Every hidden weapon, every secret ship, every ally they had cultivated over the decades was called into action. The time for limited strikes and measured responses was over. The Council wanted to destroy entire solar systems. Earth would stop them no matter what it cost. Admiral Morrison received orders that gave him unlimited authority to do whatever was necessary to protect innocent life in the galaxy. As he read the message, he thought about his Kalari friends, who had saved human lives with their medicine. He thought about the Thane engineers who had helped build Earth's greatest cities. Then he thought about the Council leaders who had ordered their murder and were now planning to kill billions more beings across hundreds of worlds. Intelligence Officer Nicole Baker floated in space, wearing a stealth suit that made her invisible to every sensor the Council possessed. The facility in front of her was the most heavily guarded secret in the galaxy, and she was about to break into it alone. The Covenant's Holy Forge Station was where they built their most terrible weapons. According to Earth's intelligence, this was where the Council was preparing their final solution. Devices that could make stars explode and destroy entire solar systems. Nicole had volunteered for this mission because she understood what was at stake. If the Council completed their stellar Terminator weapons, they could kill every living being in the galaxy rather than lose their power. Billions of innocent people would die because 3 species couldn't accept that their time as rulers was over. She attached a small device to the station's hull and waited. The device used quantum tunneling to create a hole in the metal without triggering any alarms. Within minutes, she was inside the most secure facility in Council space. What she found there made her blood freeze. The station wasn't just building a few stellar Terminators. They were mass-producing them. Hundreds of the devices were already complete, and production lines were creating more every hour. The Council planned to destroy any star system that showed signs of rebellion against their authority. Nicole recorded everything she could see, then made her way to the central computer core. She needed to get this information back to Earth, but she also needed to know how far along the project was. The files she accessed told a story of madness. The Council's leaders had decided that if they couldn't rule the galaxy, they would turn it into empty space. They were planning to destroy not just human worlds, but any system that had ever questioned their authority. The target list included hundreds of star systems, home to trillions of living beings. Many of them were species that had never even heard of Earth, guilty of nothing more than wanting to govern themselves. Operation Divine Cleansing will commence in 72 hours, read the final entry. The galaxy will learn that defying the chosen of the gods results in complete annihilation. Nicole knew she had to warn Earth immediately, but as she prepared to leave, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Her stealth suit had been detected somehow, and Council security forces were moving to capture her. She fought her way through. Corridors filled with enemy soldiers, using weapons and tactics that Earth's military had taught her. But there were too many of them, and her escape route was blocked. That's when the 80s Vengeance appeared outside the station. Captain Ryan Davis had been monitoring Nicole's mission from a safe distance. When he realized she was trapped, he made a decision that would cost him his life, but save billions of others. "This is Captain Davis to all Council forces," he broadcast as his ship approached the heavily defended station. "I'm coming to collect our intelligence officer. Anyone who gets in my way will be destroyed." The station's defensive weapons opened fire immediately. Davis's ship was tough, but it couldn't survive the combined firepower of an entire military facility. His shields failed within minutes, and his hull began to crack under the assault. But Davis didn't need to survive. He just needed to create enough chaos for Nicole to escape. "Nicole," he said over their private communication channel, "I'm going to ram the station's main weapon array. When the explosion happens, use it as cover to reach your escape pod." "Ryan, no." Nicole shouted back, "There has to be another way." "There isn't time," Davis replied calmly. "Get that intelligence back to Earth. The galaxy is counting on us." Davis aimed his dying ship at the station's most important weapon system and engaged his engines at full power. The explosion when he hit was visible from 3 star systems away. Nicole used the chaos to reach her escape pod and fled toward Earth as fast as her small ship could travel. Behind her, the Holy Forge station burned in space, its production capabilities damaged, but not destroyed. When Nicole's intelligence reached Earth, President Mitchell faced the hardest decision any human leader had ever made. The Council was planning to commit genocide on a scale never before seen in galactic history. Only a massive, immediate response could stop them. "Admiral Morrison," he said during an emergency meeting, "I'm authorizing Operation Prometheus. Use every weapon we have, call in every favor we're owed, and stop those stellar terminators from being deployed. Whatever it costs, whatever it takes." Admiral Morrison nodded grimly. He had been preparing for this moment since the day the Kalari and Thane were murdered. Now it was time to show the Council what happened when they threatened innocent life. "Fleet, Admiral Morrison to all Earth forces and allied ships," he broadcast across the galaxy. "Operation Prometheus is now active. Target all Council strongholds simultaneously. We end this today." The largest space battle in galactic history began as thousands of ships moved toward their targets. Earth's Ghost Fleet struck Council supply lines. Regular Earth forces attacked military bases. Allied species that had been secretly supporting Earth for years revealed themselves and joined the fight. General Linda Hayes led ground assaults on 17 different worlds where Council leaders were hiding. Her soldiers moved with precision and determination, capturing war criminals and freeing political prisoners. But the most important battle was happening at the galactic core, where High Chancellor Vex 9 had gathered the largest fleet in Council. History to protect their most important facilities. Admiral Morrison led that attack personally, commanding from the bridge of his flagship as thousands of Earth ships engaged the Council's final defense. "Remember why we're here," he told his fleet commanders as the battle began. "Remember the Kalari children. Remember the Thane families. Remember every innocent being the Council has murdered. Today we settle that debt. The battle was brutal and chaotic. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light as gravity weapons, tore through armor and energy beams carved through hulls. For hours, the outcome remained uncertain. Then, Dr. Amanda Clark's planet Cracker. Weapons entered the battle. The devices weren't used against inhabited worlds. Instead, they targeted the massive space stations where the Council's leaders had taken shelter. Watching their strongest fortresses split apart like broken toys, the Council's remaining forces finally understood what they were fighting. Humans didn't just want to win this war. They wanted to make sure that beings like the Council's leaders could never threaten innocent people again. High Chancellor Vex 9 died when his command ship was pulled apart by competing gravity fields. Trade Director Quinn 7 surrendered when his entire fleet was captured intact by ghost fleet ships. Supreme Leader Rao 4 was found hiding in a bunker on a dead world, praying to his god to save him from the humans who had come to arrest him. The war ended not with a massive final battle, but with a simple broadcast that reached every inhabited world in the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Chun, the woman who had witnessed the massacre that started everything, spoke for all of humanity. To every species in this galaxy, she said, her voice calm, but filled with unshakable determination, Earth remembers what happened to our friends. We remember every civilian ship destroyed, every child killed, every world that cried for help while others looked away. Her image appeared on screens throughout Council space as she continued, "The age of tyranny is over." The Council's three ruling powers chose to govern through fear and murder. They chose to threaten genocide rather than accept that their time was finished. They made their choice, and now they faced the consequences. She paused, looking directly into the camera. But this is not a message of vengeance. This is a promise of something better. Humanity stands ready to help you build a new galactic community, one based on cooperation rather than fear. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will stand against those who would rule through terror. And we will never forget the price of looking away when evil acts are committed. The broadcast ended with a simple statement that would become the founding principle of the new galactic order. Earth remembers. Earth protects. Earth ensures that never again means never again. 5 years later, Admiral Jake Morrison walked through the halls of the Commonwealth Defense Academy on New Geneva Station. The Academy trained officers from dozens of species, teaching them not just how to fight, but why fighting was sometimes necessary. Admiral called one of his students, a young Kalari whose parents had died in the massacre. Why did Earth wait so long to act? You could have stopped the Council years earlier. Morrison paused in the hallway, considering his answer carefully. Because, Cadet Torvin, Earth believed in giving peace a chance. We hoped that reasonable beings could find reasonable solutions to their problems. We were wrong about the Council's leaders, but we weren't wrong about the principle. He looked out the window at the ships from dozens of species training together in space. The galaxy we have now exists because we tried diplomacy first. When diplomacy failed and innocents died, we acted. But we acted to protect and build, not just to destroy. That's what makes us different from the Council we replaced. Dr. Lisa Chun, now head of the Commonwealth Diplomatic Corps, often visited the Memorial Garden on Aquatica, the rebuilt Kalari homeworld. Families came there to remember loved ones who had died in the massacre, but also to celebrate the fact that their children wool